Warning: the following program contains opinions, satire, and more salt than a Cracker Barrel breakfast platter. If you're allergic to common sense, conservative values, or the smell of biscuits in the morning, you may want to change the channel. Listener discretion is advised, especially for those who think heritage is just a brand guideline.
America just witnessed something we almost never see anymore. A corporation admitting it was wrong. Cracker Barrel tried to roll out a sleek modern logo, ditching Uncle Herschel, the pipe, and the rustic charm that's been tied to rocking chairs and hash brown casseroles for decades. But the backlash was swift. The internet revolted. Trump himself piled on. And within days, the company announced they were scrapping the redesign and bringing back the classic. Stocks jumped, customers cheered, and Uncle Herschel officially struck back. Tonight, we're diving into what it means when nostalgia beats out progress. Why branding wars feel like culture wars, and whether this whole fiasco was corporate cowardice or corporate common sense. Let's bring in the crew. Brian, he's the guy who once said MAGA hats should be mandatory attire in every Cracker Barrel gift shop, and I think he's about to order a round of biscuits for the entire country. Rachel, our independent voice, who I guarantee will remind us that logos don't balance budgets and nostalgia doesn't fix inflation. Daniel, the conspiracy theorist, who probably thinks the logo swap was a deep state psyop cooked up by design students at Yale. Skylar, our progressive eco-warrior, ready to argue that maybe restaurants should care more about sustainable food than fonts. And me, Artie, trying to keep this train on the tracks before it derails into the pancake griddle. Tonight's episode is brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller series. If you like suspense, conspiracies, and action that feels ripped from tomorrow's headlines, grab The Covenant Protocol and The Prophet Directive on Amazon today. And keep your eyes peeled. Book 3, Black Echo Rising, is coming this December. Because while politicians fumble logos, Caleb Rourke is busy saving the world. And since we're talking about Cracker Barrel and coffee, let's talk about what you should really be sipping out of. We just dropped 2 brand new 20-ounce stainless steel tumblers. First, the Christian Patriot tumbler, black and bold with the message, "Not ashamed of the cross or the Constitution." Perfect for black coffee, sweet tea, or a reminder of what actually built this country. And second, the Gen X Skull tumbler with the unapologetic "fuck your feelings" design. Rugged, rebellious, and exactly the vibe you want when you walk into a meeting or sit down at the diner. Grab yours now at Data and Dissonance store and sip like you mean it. So here we are. Cracker Barrel tried to trade in old Uncle Herschel for a bland text-only logo that looked like it was ripped from a Silicon Valley vegan cafe. Customers revolted, Trump piled on, the stock tanked, and then boom. They caved, bringing back the old design within days. Some call it nostalgia winning, others call it corporate cowardice. But one thing's for sure, it's the first time a plate of biscuits and gravy has managed to beat woke marketing departments. Let's dig in. Brian, you're up first. Brian, was this a victory for tradition over woke marketing, or just a company scared of losing money?
This was a clear victory for tradition, no doubt about it. Cracker Barrel's whole identity is built on nostalgia. You walk into that place for rocking chairs, country store vibes, and hash brown casserole, not for a soulless rebrand that looks like an app logo. The people spoke, and Cracker Barrel actually listened. And let's be honest, that almost never happens. Corporations usually double down, issue a statement about inclusivity, and tell you to get over it. Not this time. They admitted they messed up, and I think that sets an important precedent.
All right, but you know some folks are saying this wasn't principle. It was panic. Stocks were sinking, angry customers were screaming, and Trump turned it into a national talking point. Let me push you here, Brian. Do you think this was about protecting heritage? Or was it just raw survival instinct?
Both. And I don't see a problem with that. Heritage and survival go hand in hand. Businesses survive when they stay true to what their customers actually want. You can call it panic if you want, but the fact is they didn't ignore their base like so many other companies do. They reversed course. If that's survival, then it's smart survival. And it tells other companies, hey, maybe don't throw away your heritage just to score points with a handful of activists on Twitter.
All right, let's go one deeper, Brian. Does this moment prove that the culture war is officially mainstream? That even corporate logos are now battlefields?
Absolutely. We're way past the point of thinking the culture war is just about politics. It's everywhere. Sports, movies, commercials, even breakfast joints. The left has been trying to chip away at symbols of tradition for years, and conservatives are finally fighting back in ways that actually hit. When companies see their stock prices tied directly to culture war issues, they have to pay attention. This wasn't just a logo fight. It was a skirmish in a much bigger war over what America looks like and what it stands for.
Rachel, Brian's fired up. He says this was about heritage and that the culture war is real, even in corporate branding. But you're the independent voice here. Level with us. Do you see this as principle or just profit?
Honestly, I see it as profit, plain and simple. Corporations don't care about principles unless it affects their bottom line. Cracker Barrel didn't suddenly rediscover patriotism or tradition. They rediscovered shareholder panic. Nostalgia sells. And when they realized that stripping away Uncle Herschel was alienating the very people who actually eat there, they backtracked. I don't fault them for it. Listening to your customers is good business. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking this was about defending American values. It was about saving face and salvaging the stock price.
Okay, but some would argue that the fact people do care so much about symbols means they are bigger than just profit. So, do you think nostalgia has become a stand-in for cultural stability in times like this?
Definitely. Nostalgia is powerful because it gives people an anchor. In a world where everything feels uncertain, politics, inflation, wars, people cling to familiar symbols. Uncle Herschel isn't just a logo. It's a reminder of comfort, tradition, and simpler times. That's why the backlash was so fierce. It wasn't just about a design. It was about identity. The problem is, corporations exploit that. They don't care about your identity. They care about whether you'll spend money. Nostalgia is a marketing weapon as much as it is a cultural comfort.
All right, but one more for you, Rachel, because independents like you often say the left and the right both overreact. Do you think we overblow these culture war fights? Or is there real significance in a logo battle like this?
There's some overblowing, yes. At the end of the day, it's still a logo. It doesn't change the price of eggs or the state of healthcare. But there is significance in how much people rallied around it, because it shows where the public mood is. People are tired of having traditions stripped away under the banner of progress. Even if it seems small, it's symbolic of a bigger frustration, that elites make decisions without asking the people who actually pay the bills. So yes, it's both overblown and significant at the same time.
Daniel, I can see you itching to jump in. Probably connecting Uncle Herschel to the Bilderberg Group. Let's go. Do you see this as a design mistake? Or part of a bigger test of how far they can push culture?
Oh, this was a test, no question. Corporations don't just randomly decide to erase heritage. These decisions are made in boardrooms with consultants and focus groups. They wanted to see if they could reframe a legacy brand into something modern and bland without sparking revolt. Guess what? They couldn't. The revolt was the point. Now they know exactly how much pushback they'll get. Think of it like probing the defenses. It's not about fonts, it's about conditioning people to accept cultural erosion, one symbol at a time.
Okay, but some people will say you're reaching, so let me push you. Why would a restaurant chain care about eroding culture? Isn't this just branding, not conspiracy?
Because branding is culture. Symbols shape identity. If you can normalize stripping heritage out of a beloved American restaurant, you can normalize it anywhere. Corporations are intertwined with politics, with media, with everything. If they can make you accept bland, sanitized symbols in places you love, then you're softened up for bigger cultural changes down the line. It's all about testing thresholds.
All right, last one, Daniel. Give us the big picture. If this was a stress test, what's the lesson the elites learned from Cracker Barrel's backtrack?
The lesson is simple. The people still have power, but only when they use it. If the backlash is strong enough, corporations will retreat. That's why you saw the reversal here. But don't think the elites will stop trying. They'll just repackage it and come back again later. The culture war doesn't pause. It just changes tactics. Today, it's Uncle Herschel. Tomorrow, it'll be your sports teams, your TV shows, even your flag. They test, they probe, they adapt. Always watch the patterns.
Skylar, you've been patient, so let's bring in the progressive angle. Everyone else is fired up about tradition and heritage, but you see this differently. Do you think this backlash was really about values or just overblown outrage?
Overblown outrage, without question. It's a logo. People treated this like Cracker Barrel had declared war on America. The reality is, companies rebrand all the time. The only reason this got traction was because Trump and conservative media inflated it into a culture war flashpoint. And instead of talking about real issues like wages, healthcare, or sustainability, we're spending airtime arguing over whether a cartoon man with a pipe is politically correct enough. That's not progress. That's distraction.
All right, but people clearly do care about these symbols. So let me ask you this. Do you think conservatives clinging to nostalgia is holding the country back?
Yes, in some ways it is. Nostalgia is comforting, but it can also blind you. People want to cling to the past because it feels safe, but that doesn't solve today's problems. Wages are stagnant, healthcare is broken, the planet is on fire, and folks are worried about a restaurant logo. That's the trap. Corporations would rather have you arguing over Uncle Herschel than holding them accountable for how they treat their workers or source their food. Nostalgia can be a tool of control if you're not careful.
All right, last one. If this is distraction, then what do you think the real conversation should be instead of fighting over logos?
We should be talking about corporate responsibility. Cracker Barrel should be leading in areas like sustainability, fair wages, and healthy options, not fighting PR wars over design. The logo fight is a sideshow. The real conversation should be about how corporations treat people and the planet. Until we shift focus, we'll keep spinning our wheels in culture wars while the same problems go unsolved.
So Brian calls it a win for tradition. Rachel says it's profit dressed up as principle. Daniel says it's a deep state stress test. And Skylar says it's all a distraction from real problems. Whatever you call it, Uncle Herschel has returned, and apparently he brought the stock price back with him. Maybe nostalgia really is worth its weight in biscuits. Before we close out tonight, let's go around the table one last time. Give me your big picture takeaway from the Cracker Barrel saga. What does it actually tell us about America in 2025?
My takeaway is this. We're not powerless. For years, conservatives have been told that corporations will never listen, that they'll keep going woke no matter what. But this week proved otherwise. People spoke, Trump amplified, and Cracker Barrel folded. That's a blueprint for how to push back. It's not just about a logo. It's about showing that tradition still has value and that the people who built these companies into household names still matter. If Uncle Herschel can strike back, so can we.
My takeaway is that symbols matter, but we should be careful not to confuse them with substance. Yes, nostalgia is powerful, and yes, corporations will respond to consumer outrage. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking this is a revolution. Cracker Barrel didn't suddenly grow a conscience. They just recalculated risk. It's an interesting case study in how public pressure works, but it doesn't change the fact that people are still struggling with bigger issues. If only we could rally this kind of collective outrage for healthcare or fiscal responsibility, maybe we'd get some real change.
My final thought is that the culture war is alive, and it's not slowing down. What happened here wasn't random. It was a test balloon, and it popped. The lesson is that people still have lines they won't let corporations cross, but the elites won't stop testing. Today, it was Uncle Herschel. Tomorrow, it'll be a sports team, a holiday, maybe even the symbols of the nation itself. You can laugh at it, you can call it small, but every small fight builds to a bigger one. Watch the patterns because they're not done.
My takeaway is that we're losing sight of what matters. People got more fired up over a logo than they do about wages, healthcare, or climate change. That's what frustrates me. Corporations love these culture war fights because it distracts everyone from the real issues. While we're arguing about Uncle Herschel, workers are still underpaid, food is overpriced, and the planet is in crisis. Nostalgia is powerful, but if it blinds us to real problems, it becomes a tool of control. We need to shift our outrage toward things that actually change lives.
And here's where I land. This Cracker Barrel fiasco is America in a nutshell. Loud, messy, funny, and revealing all at once. On the surface, it's just a logo swap and a corporate backtrack. But underneath, it's about identity, tradition, and the power of the people to push back when they care enough. It shows us that culture wars don't just play out in Washington or on cable news. They play out on signs, on menus, and in the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Yes, Rachel's right. Symbols aren't substance. Yes, Skylar's right. It's a distraction from bigger issues. But Brian's also right. It's proof that the people still have a voice. And Daniel's not wrong either. This was a test, and more are coming. So maybe Uncle Herschel's comeback is just a corporate panic move, but it's also a reminder that tradition still matters, nostalgia still sells, and that sometimes the little battles reflect the bigger war. Either way, we'll keep watching, keep laughing, and keep speaking truth, even if it's over biscuits and gravy. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, remember to speak truth. Stir thought.